Property Group and FC Tucker.
Hi, Shelly Walters with FC Tucker and the Shelly Walters Realty Group, and we have our wonderful guest,
Ryan Foxworthy with the Meridian North office.
With FC Tucker. So we got a whole FC Tucker squad in here today. It's kind of nice. So we'll go over the stats and kind of the market and everything, but I specifically wanted Ryan to come on. I've known Ryan for a while, since he's been in the industry, and we've had some people. We had like a new agent on. We had Kyle on, right, who's been doing it about a year. We've had agents who've been in the business longer, like with Megan, right, and so we just really want to have a wide variety of like what the people are experiencing within what it used to be like, what it was like a couple of years ago, what it's like now, and like kind of like their narrative of kind of what they've experienced, so to speak. And so I thought Ryan would be a really good one because he literally came in like right pre-COVID, right? So kind of like what you see has happened, because you got licensed 2019, right? Was that spring?
May
What
of
was that?
May of 2019. Yep.
May of 2019. And so everything, so that was still a pretty hot market, right? Things were selling quicker than they had been. And then March of 20, right? It just kind of broke loose. Like, well, not right immediately, but like that first week of April of 2020 is when things just went super crazy, right? Because of COVID.
Yeah, and you would have no idea, like, you had hardly but had a chance to experience getting used to whatever you were dealing with, to have that come in, because I look back to that time, what a strange time.
Well,
I mean, the stuff we had to do for houses and gloves, I mean, you had to have gloves in your car and everything, and they make their closets halfway open, or all lights on, don't touch the lights. I mean, just all of that of how to even show a house was crazy to me.
You have no idea.
I had no idea, and I honestly, when COVID hit, I thought that I was like, am I going to be able to sell a house? I didn't know interest rates were going to do what they did. I remember I got a call from Biff Ward saying, I don't think we're going to make any sales this year. And then look what happened. In 2021 was one of the best years for most agents. But yeah, I went from just your standard normal showing a house to now we've got masks, and we've got only one group in at a time. So it was definitely
or video only.
Video only, right? I mean, I definitely had to pivot. I know that's one of your favorite terms, but everybody had to pivot, right? So it's one of those things that you just had to adjust to the new normal. And if you didn't, then you were going to be behind the eight ball. But yeah, it was a crazy time.
But you also had this luxury, right, of not knowing, because I can remember some like more experienced agents than me at the time saying like, I'm not paying a house that's like $15,000 over list, like this makes no sense. And there were some tenured agents who like really struggled with that idea, and their clients didn't get houses, so they wouldn't even write or show because they're like, the market's too crazy. And you look back now and you're like, man, I'd give anything to buy that house back then, right?
Really.
But you didn't,
because it went up 20%.
Have that as a knowledge base.
I didn't, but at the end of the day too, I also looked at it where, I wasn't as, profound with or educated enough on how to talk to my clients yet about is the value there, but at the end of the day, we know that it's up to our buyers what they want to pay for the house, right? So I would try and navigate it as best as I could and tell, but they also knew that limit inventory was still low, and there was a lot of buyers out there, so they're going to have to give away everything in their third child in order to get a house. So at the end of the day, it was up to my buyers. I was just there to advise them on, what the different ways in which we can make our offer better and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it was up to the buyers.
Well, and it used to be too. A standard 8-page purchase agreement was what we did. And then we started having to add everything else, like the escalation clause and, the floor on the inspection items. That we
COVID addendums.
COVID, having to sign that before you even go in the house, you have to sign that. Just the amount of paperwork that increased, and then the amount of work that you had to do as a listing agent that you probably, you can't really say starting in 2019 you had done probably a lot to get normalized into a way of doing it, but receiving 15 and 20 offers on a house was crazy.
But it was common, right? Like, and think about it, like
it was the normal market.
When I would go get a call from a potential seller and they say, hey, we want to list our house, I'd go over there, and usually it's you should do this, 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 and this to make it better. I would always advise them to do that just to try and get top dollar, but at the end of the day, we could have just taken it the way it was, put a sign in the yard, and you're going to have offers over list price.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I like. Like you and I have talked, and what I like about you is that like you just love what you do and you perfect your craft. And so a lot of agents did do that, and the agents who didn't and continued to perfect their craft over that are the ones who are continually doing well and are not concerned about anything, because they did get better through all of that and still did provide the same level or higher level of service.
The standard
Then what's needed.
basics should never have gone away.
Correct.
Getting your house ready for a listing is, and we talk about it on the, I mean, we were doing the podcast then in 2020 or whatever, we were talking about that. Just the amount of houses we'd go into that were dirty or horrible or this or that, and we're like,
Or the photos were bad.
yeah,
It's
they
to
just
me,
quit
I just-
working.
I
They're like,
just-
oh, this is easy.
It boggles my mind. At the end of the day, as real estate, we get paid a good amount of money. And when houses were flying off the shelf, I personally wanted to still provide as much value as I could, whether that's just encouraging them to do this, that, or the other with the house.
Yep.
Because guess what's gonna happen? If we sell that house for way over list price, smooth transaction, that seller's gonna go to their friends and tell them how great of a job I did versus, Ryan came in, put a sign in the yard, and I gave him a bunch of money to sell the house.
Yeah.
Like, no, like,
Well,
Like that doesn't sit right with
it doesn't
somebody.
sit
No,
right with
yeah.
me at all.
Just on this end, I'm like, I didn't feel comfortable with that in the first place, so that's why we kept
well,
doing
why would
everything
your
we
standards
do.
lower? I mean, as a real estate agent, if you are a professional and you have your ideas of how you wanna run your business, why would you all of a sudden change your standards? Because the market is, I mean, you're not doing for your client what you should have been doing as you did in 19, as you should do the same
That's
in
hard. I
21.
think that's like a personal question to an individual agent, because I don't know, like it could be, not everybody handled COVID well, and there's mental health problems, and then there's also like at the same time, there's no school, and so you got kids home,
Yeah.
like do you have the time for it? And like, with me and my family, like we had to adjust, like that's what we did, and that's just easier for some than others, like, so it's kind of super layered how it could have happened, but at the end of the day, like it just fell on me. It's like, that's just not what I do. It's just not the type of professional I am. Like this is what is expected of myself.
One, I think all three of us, I've done a deal with Shelly, and I've obviously talked to you a lot, but in my opinion, there's two types of agents. There's relational and there's transactional.
Yes.
We're relational. We care
Yes.
about our clients and their well-being, and at the end of the day, all of my clients that I work with, whether I've known you for 15 years or I just met you, I want you to feel like you're part of my family when it's all said and done.
Oh my gosh,
Right?
the amount of clients that I've made best friends with and
Right.
still hang out with all the time and have become like family is beyond the
I
amount.
mean, it goes a long way, right? Like,
It makes the business wonderful to get to have that. So what do you think now? You went through that. You've
Yeah.
gone through like 3 markets already
I have.
in what, 6 years, 5 years,
I'm
4
in
years.
my 4th year, yeah.
4
So
years.
I'm pivoting, right? I've been blessed. I'm pretty busy. I had 3 closings last month. I got 3 this month. I got 3 next month as well, and a few listings. So I'm just continuing just to take care of my clients, right? Like, and answer my phone and make suggestions. And obviously, one of the biggest issues right now is pricing.
Mm-hmm. You
Can't just put a sign in the yard and hope that it sells for, like, you have to be exact on price or as close as you can be. So it's just about education.
Especially at the listing appointment, we talk about that a lot so I feel like we spent 2 years educating buyers on how to buy, and I feel like the past 6 months we've been trying to educate sellers on how to sell, because during COVID, like, I'll be honest, I'll be sitting there and we're looking at a price, and a seller will be like, I want to try that. Like, if you pushed it $5,000 to $7,000, like that was just kind of normal. It just really was.
Mm-hmm.
And that threshold is so thin right now.
Yeah.
There's no
add,
pushing. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any pushing right now.
if you push it, that 5,000, it adds 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
It's that,
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't, and then the other thing we were talking about is, the conversations to have with sellers up front of like, what's our timeline in the first place? My ideal person is somebody who's like, hey, we're looking to do with this in the next 6 months, not, when it's like next 30 days, I'm like, why didn't you call me 4 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other
Because
thing-
when we're prepared for it, like you can actually handle the market and the pricing better is one of the things we're gonna talk about, because if you got the 6 months, I can probably get you more than if you're crammed into 30 days and you wanna start doing price reductions. Your carrying costs over 6 months of your mortgage payment and everything will be much less than what, I don't wanna say us, but like what I see some agents out there doing is dropping the price, and you're gonna end up losing 40
Yeah.
because you wanna sell it in 30 days.
Well, and the other thing you said to educate your sellers, it goes back to the agents. The agents still need to be educating themselves on what market we're in today, because like this situation where I just wanted to speak about a little bit is, for agents to be the ones educating their sellers, they need to be educating their sellers with the proper information.
Yeah.
And I think many agents in the market right now do not know the current, like the stats we do every week, saying what the average days on market is. This fear of being on the market past like 7 to 10 days, that's still a fear out there. because they think it's still 2022, is really hurting the seller. So this is just an instance I heard about yesterday that just, I think it's just standard for what we're talking about. So the agent got an offer finally yesterday. She was so excited and really worried because she's like, we finally got an offer in 42 days on market. And it's in the town that is an average days on market, it's about 30. So they were a little far off, but they started doing price drops at 7 days. So they did price drops every 7 days for a month, 42 days. So they started in the 480s and ended up with a sale price finally at 42 days of 444, which is a $45,000 drop from what they started with. But we keep talking about hold off on those price drops until you get towards the day of 30 days on market. Then you're getting above average. Then start talking about it. But what would have happened when they were at 489 when they got the offer? Would they have gotten 470 instead of 444? But you just need to be very confident of the price you're giving and giving high expectations to the sellers of where we are, but not to be, afraid at 7 days and go, oh, we better lower the price,
Like, what's wrong with it?
I mean, what's that telling to the buyer's agent that's looking at that house? If I go and I look at what's the history of it and I see there's been 4 price drops in a matter of a month.
They're gonna drop it again as an offer.
I'm gonna wait.
I'm gonna either wait or I'm just gonna be like, guys, these sellers are clearly motivated to get this off their hands.
Let's
So
hammer
let's,
Not
on
even
price.
motivated, scared.
right.
Yeah.
And so, like, I love to, as a buyer, when I represent buyers, we take advantage of that all the time, right? And so, it's interesting, because I'll send an offer and we'll be like, lowball them. And it's interesting when I talk to a good agent, they're like, come on, seriously. They're like, okay, we just want to see how this would fly. We'll come back up, right? But then I've also been on the other end when we list a house and somebody tries to hammer us and we're like, seriously, like I could keep the house on the market for like a year and we'll be better than that, right?
Well, and also having a buyer's agent ask me for the comps I used. Where'd you come up with this price? Like,
That's
I had a listing I just had that was so funny. We had a 30-day. They found the house they wanted. They had 30 days to sell. Was their best. That's a situation where it made sense that we had 30 days. So we aggressively went in. My comps were 420 to 424. We went in at 399 to list it because they wanted to sell. I said that'll probably put us in a position of multiple offers.
Yep.
And I got an offer on the first day for 375. And he goes, we just don't see the price. And I'm like, not only is it worth $20,000 more, but here's your comps. And they came all the way up to list price. Cause I'm like, I don't know, but maybe an agent would have, as a list agent would have said, oh God, I'm wrong. You better take this, Mr. and Mrs.
You gotta be careful.
I mean, you gotta be really knowledgeable of what you're doing.
You do, because what ends up happening is I've witnessed it, not on my end, but like when I'm dealing with other people where they'll say something like that, and then like I know my comps, right? And
I have them ready. Here you go.
Right, and then an appraiser comes in and appraises it higher, and now all of a sudden the buyer thinks like, oh, the appraiser's in on it, and it's I'm like, no, it was priced right in the first place, but your agent told you a lower price, and now you think like everybody's at like this is the value of the house, like this is what people think it is, and it can sour a deal, quite honestly, just because somebody didn't take the time or whatever it may be.
But 2 years ago, 1 year ago, everybody was excited to write $50,000 off over and pay it.
Well, another thing that just concerns me with house prices with listing amounts is there's not a lot of deals right now, right? From a listing side, there's not a lot of houses that are in the market, and there's a lot of agents out there that are struggling. So they're going to say whatever the seller wants to hear in order to get that listing.
I agree with that.
If we think a house is worth $500,000, but that seller thinks it's $575, we're going to educate them as to why we came up with our number based on the data. That's what I always use. I always focus on the data that's in front of me.
It's all there is.
But that's not to say that there's not going to be another agent that's like going to just say, fine, I'll do $565, because they know they're going to be able to get it lower. But like for me, I don't ever want to be in that position. I've turned down 2 listings before because the seller was so far off of where I wanted to be. I didn't want to end up losing sleep at night. I mean, I've got 3 kids, a wife. Like, I don't want that to.
We still just work just as hard on those listings.
Right.
So I'm not gonna go into the process of knowing I'm gonna be letting the seller down, and they're gonna start getting angry more than likely.
And then they
because
come
it's
at
not
you,
selling.
they're
And I'm
like, why isn't the house selling? It's like, because we're way overpriced,
Well, it makes you
remember?
wonder, a lot of these houses that are sitting on the market that are beautiful homes, is that a reflection of the agent who hasn't gotten a lot of deals yet this year and needs the money, just going in and saying, Okay, you think it's worth 565, even though it's probably only worth 500. That concerns me moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, we just take that and, for my buyers, if they really, really like the house and I've shown them I really think it's worth 500 and it's listed at 565, we'll go in, I'll make the offer.
Absolutely.
Appraiser's gonna take care of it.
And I'll also provide my comps and say, please provide these to your seller as well as you, and look at these and see if you think I'm wrong, but this is where the number is I'm coming up with. I'm not trying to lowball you, I'm trying to just go with what we feel the market is, because we are also, if we're agents with this buyer going out and seeing houses, we've seen all their competition. And I remember back in the day when I was starting in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, it was taught that you go out and look at all the houses that will be your competition to price your house. So you knew, like, that's why I always say the buyer's agents know what they're seeing and the buyers know what they're seeing, to compare to this 565 that is a sore thumb compared to all the 500s they're looking at. They're exactly the same. And if I would go look at a 565 house and do that, we were told, take your sellers through all those houses and say, is your house better or worse than this one? Is your house better or worse than this one? That was the best way to get a seller to truly understand the market and not just look at stats. I don't do that anymore, but maybe when you're in a position where you've got a 565 and you know it's 500, hey, let's go look at
It
these
wouldn't be as hard
houses.
these days because there's only a handful of them on the market.
Right,
actually.
right. Or
They're
it's not
actually
as
like
hard and, you just, if there's an open house, I wanna go through these, but somehow, but that is a great way for agents to really settle in on a price if they think they're unsure or the seller's pushing them too high.
Yeah, I just think when all of it's said and done, the media is not helping us either.
No.
So what's happening is they're consuming news articles, whatever it may be, and I come in here and I'm trying to tell them something different. Or like, even right now, lately, it's pivoted a little bit where like the headlines are saying, like numbers are down, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm having to go in there to explain it because all they're reading is the headlines. I'm like, yeah, inventory is down. That's why there's less sales. But all you see is sales are down and you associate that with a dollar amount, not an actual like unit amount, I guess would be the best word.
They also too say that sale prices are down when they're looking at the list to sale ratio, which isn't 100 to 101 or 102 anymore. It's 99. Well, that we say it all the time. That 99% is still
It's higher than April was.
10% higher than it was in January.
It's just
So,
down from August. When we had,
the prices aren't coming
Fisher on
down.
this week.
They're not.
That's because the buyers that are out there are serious buyers.
Yep.
And those that are selling are serious. They have to. It's no more, let's just put on the market because we go find something else because the interest rates are low and we can have a lot more affordability. They have to buy and they have to sell. So it's like, to me, like I've got sellers that are considering putting on the market now, but at the end of the day, like, we focus on the comps with what their competition is, right? Because at the end of the day, even if there are so many houses that are sitting out there right now, just literally sitting that are beautiful homes.
Perfect homes.
But they're just sitting there. And then like you said earlier, there's all these price reductions. Why? Like, let's take our time. Let's focus on the days on market, which is 20 to 30 or whatever, depending on what area you're in. But yeah, it's been an interesting market for the last year or so, to say the least.
So what do you feel about it? Like, what are you seeing? We call it a normal market. What are you feeling as an agent? Just seeing these two markets. You've seen two. You're in a third.
Yeah, my third market. Obviously it's a lot different than what COVID was like, right? During 2021, 2022, early 2022. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of opportunity for buyers, for sellers, and also just for agents alone, because there's a lot of agents that are going to be getting out of business, which opens up more market share for us that are really in this to win it, and this is our day to day. I'm excited for what's going to happen. I'm done listening to, interest rates are going to go down in 3 months to 5.
They went down this week.
Oh, they did, which is great.
Yeah,
It's positive. Don't get me wrong.
Still in the sevens.
But
I was like, it's all relative.
what I'm focusing on right now is with my clients or my sphere, my friends, is education.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. I've never been one to be salesy or try and push somebody to buy or sell.
Right.
I'll never be like that. But if I can educate someone, I finally had a buyer that I just put their condo up for sale in Carmel, right across the street this morning. They hit me up. I sold them right here in Carmel Air.
Carmel Air? Yeah. Great neighborhood.
Yeah, so I helped him buy it 2 years. It'll be 2 years in end of December. He just got married. He reached out to me out of nowhere and said, "Hey, here's 2 houses in Carmel. We want to go look at them." Like, "What, you're moving?" Like, okay. So he's like, "Yeah, I've been, watching the stuff you've been putting on social media." And we had our conversation a couple weeks ago about how right now is a good time to buy versus waiting till interest rates go down because they just got married, they're gonna start having kids. They don't want to wait. They don't want to wait. So that, they'd rather pay a couple extra $100 a month right now and then refinance in whenever rates go down versus pay 20 or 30 over list and then gap coverage comes back and then inspection things. So now we've got a great house in West Carmel. That's, we did a regular inspection, no appraisal down, it appraised at sale price. But I finally was able to get somebody to be like, okay, you're right.
I get it. So like, let's say it was even $500 a month difference and you carry that for a year. That's what, I mean, yeah, exactly, right? So that house is gonna cost you more than $6,000 more next year. Like
next
it just
spring or
is.
summer.
Like A, because what the purchase price will be. B, like it'll go back to like maybe let's say you didn't even pay over list, but because it's so competitive, you now you're responsible for a $12,000 roof because the seller won't come off of it.
Exactly.
Right? Like there's just so many different layers to it as to how it's gonna end up costing more. To your point, it's like, what do people, when they ask me about it, like to me, like it's just business as usual for me, like
Exactly.
I educate people, I tell them what to expect, what it's gonna be like, whether it's a buyer or a seller, and we just keep going out there. The only difference for me right now, between then and now, is the time allotted for decision making. That's about it, and that's a
Thank
luxury.
goodness for that.
I love that.
Yeah.
So,
But
a
sometimes
listing
not.
or
I always tell my buyer, like I had a buyer I was showing a house to, they've been looking, we've finally saw one that they really liked. So he called me and he said, I really want to see this one, and it was a Wednesday, I think, and he said, can we see it Saturday? And I go, can you see it tomorrow morning? And he's like, well, we won't wait till Saturday. I go, I still am on the mentality, we could sell in a day still if it's really good.
Yeah,
this one was really good, and I said, we need to see it tomorrow, and we need to make an offer tomorrow. So
we just sold one in a week, or last week in a day.
Yeah.
They're out there.
I forgot it's with you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm like, you need to see this one now. And I call the agent and he says, your agent, and he says, yeah, we may be getting another offer. So don't assume you can wait.
Yeah.
It's not that way 100%.
But the best way to do that is to call the other agent and communicate.
100%.
That's the
Well, you know how it goes. No offers or not many showings in the first week or two, but then all of a sudden on one day, you get like 5 showings and you get like 3 offers.
Yeah.
Well,
and you wrote a low offer or something, you're like, oh, here
it's
we
the
go.
mentality of the buyers out there saying, I'll wait and see, and I'll wait and see, and I'll wait and see, and then all of a sudden, because we've told the agents, let us know if something happens. Well, 5 agents have said, let us know if something happens. And then the buyers want to know, what happened? Why didn't my multiple offer all of a sudden? Blah, blah, blah. Like, because it was set up to happen.
Yeah.
It's set up to happen in this market.
But if you are representing a buyer and you can tell it's that kind of house, just put your best foot forward. It'll never make it to the other ones.
No, right.
That's
And the first
that's
day,
simple.
first or second day.
Yeah,
You
which is
have
what
to-
you guys did.
Well, yeah, it's just, he's like, well, let me just think about it. I go, okay, you can go in at full list today, and more than likely the seller will take it. No seller's gonna counter higher.
Right.
Some do, but not all. And then if you get the house for that, you did good. If you wanna wait 2 or 3 days, this is a great house, you're going to pay more than list. I guarantee you will pay more than list in 3 days.
Yeah.
It's just what I see happening, and I'm not trying to be a salesman like you said. I'm trying to use my experience. That's why they've hired me. I want to tell you what I know is going to happen. I'm trying to tell you how to save money. You want it, right? Then let's do it today.
At the end of the day, it comes down to how much that buyer is willing to not get the house.
Yeah.
Right.
I always tell people.
Yeah,
so
that's what I say. Yeah.
You'll never remember if you paid $7,000 over on this house. You will always remember the house that you missed for $5,000. You just will. You just will, because like it just won't matter at the end of the day, right? But you didn't get that house over $5,000. So.
And I like to use that. I tell them it's if we're going to put a good offer together, and because things still can happen fast, right?
Yes, they can. Yes.
So I say, all right. So let's say it's a $500,000 house, and let's say they're going to go 510. I want you to be happy if I call you and say we got the house for 510. But then I also want you to be happy if we get an inspection report back and we have a cap on there of $1,000 that there's 4 items that are going to be $950. I still want you to be ecstatic about the house. And then I want you to be ecstatic if you have to find out that you have to bring a little bit of money to the table for the appraisal or whatever.
Yeah.
If you can say yes to all 3 of those things,
Let's go.
let's write an offer.
Yeah. Well, I also tell them too, like if when we're using the appraisal or the escalation clauses, which we don't have to, but no matter what price you tell me, I want you to be happy when I call you and tell
Yes.
you got it.
Yeah.
But if I call you and you made that offer of 300 and, you said, that's it, I'm not going any higher, 300, and I call you and you get it and you don't come back to me and go, oh God, did I pay too much? You're not gonna say that, right? Okay, no, yes. But if I call you and tell you it sold for 301, are you gonna be mad? And if they say, well, I paid 301, I go, well, then that's the offer we need to make.
Yeah.
Don't, you can't play the game with me and have a second chance.
Yep.
There is no second chance.
I use my dad as an example. It's funny, and I'll make this quick, but we have a lake house in Culver at Lake Maxinkuckee, and we've been renting for years. And then a house hit the market. My dad put a low ball offer on, not thinking he'd get it. He just did it to appease my stepmom. And I'll never forget, we're sitting in our rental, and his agent at the time, this was 10 years ago, comes in the house with a gift basket. My dad looks at me, he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, he's like, I just bought a house.
Like, that's the thing though, like, as his agent, if I was representing him and I saw like, oh God, I actually got it, I'm gonna feel bad about that. Like, that's why I make sure in those 3 different areas, like, you're gonna say you're happy all 3 times. And if you can do that, then let's move forward.
Well,
When we go to the-
how-
I wanna know when we're going to the lake house.
Yeah.
That's what I wanna know.
Let's go.
How many
All about it.
times though, and I see it all the time, and especially because the listings I've had where the buyer is in that position and you see that face, and the whole rest of the next 10, 15 days is, how do I get out? How do I get out? How do I backpedal?
Mhm.
And that is no fun to go
Well, I think
through for anybody.
nationwide, I think it's like the most number of
Yeah, mutual
Mutual
releases.
release.
Mutual releases right now, yeah,
It's been
yeah,
bad since July, and I've had to be on both sides of them, and
Yeah.
it just kinda is what it is.
yeah.
All right, so let's do the stats real quick, cause I know you said Zionsville's real crazy. I'll do mine, cause you got a little bit more. In Fishers, we had 28 go on the market, anywhere between 187 and 1.8. 20 of those are still active. 8 pended within a week, but 22 pended. So like we only grabbed a little bit when it comes to inventory.
22 out of 26.
Yeah, so 148 are on the market. Average days on market is 28. Median is 17. So even median is close to 3
Yeah,
weeks
we're
these
getting
days.
even.
And I was sitting there with Ryan, he was watching me do the stats, and so like Noblesville was an interesting one, right? So 13 went on the market, anywhere from 219 to
13?
Yep, 219 to
Wow.
950. And 10 of them are still active, right? That went on the market in a week. So like I was telling you, so only 3 pended last week within 7 days, but 16 pended last week. So we lost inventory last week. But if you're looking at it, you're like, what? Only 3 pended in a week? Yeah, and it made our situation worse because 16 actually pended. And so we're down to like 139 as an active inventory in Noblesville. And then 28 days on market, 13 median. And even when we were looking at it, we were talking about an upcoming listing he's got. And it's like, how many of these? So we looked in a price range and there was like 18 on the market active. And we're like, hey, how many of them are from like 2020 and newer? And 13 of them were like new. So like to find a newer construction spec home type house was actually not insanely difficult, but to find something that was built in like early 90s, something that, you know, that's kind of like maybe has a bigger lot or whatever it may be, has like some of that charm people used to like versus open concept. You got like nothing.
Right.
You got 5. So I don't know, it's just really interesting, you know, as we kind of like walk through the numbers and what they mean. That's why we try to digest them, because I know you said Zionsville had a pretty crazy number on it, so.
Yeah, so we'll start with Carmel, and again, you've got low numbers. Only 25 hit the market last 7 days, and that was 5.
It was Halloween, now that I think about it.
Well, that shouldn't. Well, never.
I'd like to list on Halloween, because
more people.
there's a lot of people out looking.
Well,
you know?
and you know what?
Walking by the house.
It's the last day of the month too, so a lot of closings on Halloween
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's a question I'll digress real quick. But I always ask my clients if I see a date that's coming up and they, you know, it's gonna get put on the purchase agreement, it's like Friday the 13th, Halloween. Those are the 2 I'm like, do you wanna close on that date? And you know how many people tell me no? Probably 80% of them.
You know?
I'm not closing on those days. So,
I sold a house in Westfield like 2 months ago, and it was interesting when I was looking at all the paperwork from when they built the house. They closed on the house 9/11.
Oh.
Like not like the actual day they closed on the house, and I was like, wow, I mean, it was just really,
The actual.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
9/11 of 01. Or,
Wow.
Yeah, 01.
So anyway, so 25 hit the market, 5 of those pended, but a total of 19 pended, so we almost took everything out that came in. Average days on market is 36 for those 19 that pended and 15 for median, so we're at 36 in Carmel for the past 7 days. Active, there's 153. Sold 100, so 100 sold, 25 hit the market. That means we're just taking them all. You know, there's no positive inventory happening. Average days on market for the past 30 days was 20, we're now at 36.
And everybody, so Carmel, one of the most desirable places you can live, right, in Indianapolis, right, and on the north side, and houses sell quicker in Noblesville currently than they do in Carmel.
Yeah, and Westville's even higher. So list to sale ratio in Carmel right now, 97. Westfield, 35 hit the market, 6 of those pended in the past 7 days, but 21 pended total the last 7 days. The average days on market in the past week, 30, and 22 is the average, median, so we're coming close to meeting at the same. Active, there's 207, but 110 of those are new builds, so only 97 resales, and all price ranges in Westfield. In the past 30 days, 135 sold. They're at 101% list to sale ratio right now. The average for the past 30 days was 40 days on market, so it went down the past 7 days to 30.
Do you think that 101% is because a lot of those pendings are new build?
New builds, yeah. And we don't really get to that, but there's so much ways to digress more into it. But just kind of looking at what everybody's saying is the prices are dropping. So Carmel's kind of showed a little bit of a slide. Zionsville, 8 houses hit the market. None of those pended in the past 7 days. 2 total pended, but the average days is 11 in Zionsville. 62 are currently active, and in the past 30 days, 47 sold. But what was weird is I looked at the average days on market for Zionsville, and if I would just look at the stats and figure it out, it said 71 was the average days on market with 15 median. So I went back. When you get that kind of a number, you know something's wrong.
There's an outlier.
So there were 4 outliers. And 2 of them is this issue we're having with MyBore, and anybody who needs to understand looking at just raw data and just grabbing it and not thinking about what you're seeing is gonna make a really bad. So if you wanna tell your seller it's an average of 71 days on market, because that's what the stats say, I had to pull 4 bad ones out. I call them bad. 2 of them were just 500 days on the market, like just crazy. So I just pull those out because it doesn't really matter. But the other 2 said negative 170 days and negative like 200 days or something like that. I submitted them both as a violation or a problem because it's screwing up our data. But how can a house have that many negative days? So it really screwed up. So the average days on market's 31 in Zionsville, not 71.
What does that even mean? Like we're going on the market in 4 months? Like I don't even know how.
I don't know. I'm on the BLC committee, so I want to really talk about that because we have talked about it in the past. I thought it went away, but it hasn't gone away. So there's some, just as agents, anybody looking at stats, make sure that they make sense, because don't just grab it.
And if you see something odd, report it. Like it's not a
report
big
the
deal. It
violation.
makes our numbers cleaner.
It's not a violation, it's a weird thing to happen. But
It
if you
happens.
see these things, these still need to be cleaned up and fixed, because if you see it, turn it in and you do it, you go up to information, you click on it and it goes down and says report violation. Just, it's just to help.
Sometimes just stuff, we've closed a house and for some reason I've gotten a phone call like 5 days later and I'm like, it'll be like, hey, this should have closed, or we'll get an email notification and like we did, for some reason it just didn't take in the system.
Yeah.
Like stuff just happens, you know? It is what it is.
Well, we are so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's great.
Sad.
We're so sad.
I tell Kyle, I listen to your guys' episode every week. It's one of my go-tos for when I work out on Monday. So
Thank
I
you.
love it. I think every agent especially the newer agents, this should be on their list of things to do. Especially right now when it's slower. Like they need to be educating themselves, so we don't end up in these predicaments where they're listing houses where they're.
Well, we always say you can call us too. We'll have questions, but these stats, use them, take them.
Yeah.
Everything we're giving, you don't have to go do it.
Steal our stats.
Yeah,
That's
steal
what
our
I do.
stats.
Steal our stats. So if somebody want to get a hold of you, how would they do it?
My cell is 317-701-0526, and it's ryan.foxworthy@talktotucker.com.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us at Indy Housing Market. I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group, and my phone number is 317-201-2601.
And I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122. Got the holidays coming up, so happy holidays soon enough.
See you later.
Thanks everybody.